Hi, my name is Carlo RNC. Um, I'm the digital marketing executive at Futuresoft. We do this every 2 weeks, launch and learn by 12 p.m., where we teach digital and business development. So we started this to teach ourselves and every other person in the industry what the little we know about these topics and see how we can share knowledge and bring up questions, important questions from these conversations. So today I'll be talking about insights and what we know about the consumer. I'll try to explain who the consumer is, what exactly is our job as people who are in marketing or in whatever sphere we find ourselves, and how exactly we're supposed to deal with these set of people. And I'd also be talking about what consumers want and how we can give it to them. And I'll be sharing a few examples at the end. I expect some questions by the time I'm done if there's anything we may not understand. Okay, should we move on? All right, this slide isn't clear. So, every individual has made a decision at some point in time to pay or not to pay. So I'm sure we all have reached a certain junction in our everyday lives where we ask ourselves, is this thing worth it? Is it not? Do we really have to give this in exchange for that? These are very crucial moments in our lives because at that point in time you're able to weigh your options and say, okay, this thing may or may not be worth it. I should try it out or I shouldn't try it out. And payment comes in a lot of forms, but the most the most standout ones are money, time, and data. Now you can say payment works as a form of engagement where you either pay money for a product or service, or you're paying time, like this session, for example. You're paying your time by attending it and spending 1 hour learning about consumers. And you can use data as well, your information, your email, your phone numbers. And you can, if you look through, you see that the people who choose to make these decisions, who choose to say, okay, let me give something to get something, they are called consumers. So at a point, you realize that everybody is a consumer, whether a business or an individual or an organization or governments, they're all consumers. And the process of exchange between one party and the other, where they get to have a form of engagement by transferring money or time or data, is called a transaction. And transactions happen every day around us, with the bus driver, when you're signing up for a new email newsletter, when you're attending an event, take the Grammys, for example. If you're buying a ticket online, you'd have to submit your data, your email, your phone number, so you can receive the tickets directly to your mail. You have to spend your time watching the event. You'd also have to pay an entry ticket. So platforms that are able to leverage on these three forms of engagement have fully attracted the whole consumer as they are. And we'll see this in play in so many other options. But what I can say is that if you can use 2 out of the 3 of these forms of engagement effectively, what you've done is you've reached a height where you can say that customer is definitely going to come back, or they want to use your service again, or they trust you enough to give you 2 out of 3, or even 3 out of 3 of those forms of engagement. Now, the consumer is who we are, it is who we're selling to, it is who does these exchanges. And the consumer is divided into 2 parts, the target, or is made up of 2 parts rather, the target audience and the target segment. A target audience is the definition of who a product or service is for. Okay, please, could you move the slide? The next one. Thank you. So A target audience is the definition of who a product or service is for, based on certain qualities outlined in target segments. So when you say, I have something, the right person for that thing you have is who your target audience is, simple and short. Take, for example, detergents. The target audience for detergents is people who want to be clean, people who want to clean stuff, people who want to be neat, so to say. So you cannot see someone who is not interested in washing their clothes or keeping their house clean buying detergents, because the target audience for detergents is people who want to be clean. And for you to effectively define your target audience, then there are certain qualities that have to come in play to define the target audience. And these qualities are comprised of what is called the target segments. And the target segment is in four parts. That is the location of your consumer, their age, status, or economic class, their behavior online and offline, and their personalities, beliefs, and values. So for their location, it is, take for example, during the Chinese New Year, they do this thing where they gift family members all around and friends. Now, if you gift a native Chinese man a watch, he would think you're wishing him death. This is his value, dependent on the location where he's from. But down here in Nigeria, if you give someone a watch, they'll tell you thank you. But there, he'll think you're wishing him death. So you can't run a gift shop and then put watches as your as a part of your gift package, especially in locations like China, for instance. So location of your target audience is very important. The age is another thing. You can't be selling diapers to 60-year-olds, nor can you sell sneakers, size 40 running sneakers to maybe 70-year-olds. These ones are looking for things that are supposed to make their physiotherapy better, and the younger generation are looking for how to run better. So these are very important parts of what we should understand about the target audience and the target segment. Now, when you've effectively distributed these parts and understood that this is who you're looking out for, you've eliminated the question of where you can find them, because now you've defined them based on where they are, what their age, how much they earn or how much they make, and their behavior online, the kind of content they consume. Now, it brings about the next questions, like how do you reach them? How do you influence them to take action? How do you serve them better? So that's where the answer comes in, which is media. Old and new media. Old media is TV, is print, is radio, is newspapers, is magazines. And then new media is everything digital, from Reddit to LinkedIn to Instagram and Facebook, all the way down to email messaging. These are forms of new media. Now, in the process of trying to define who your target audience is and what the product or service is that you're exactly going to serve to them, you need to understand what they want. Now, Sam Walton said, consumers want what they want. They may not know it, but when they come across it, they will know. They will know that this is it. This is what I want. Nobody knew the world needed iPhones until Steve Jobs said, okay, we're going to move from iPods to iPhones. And during that time, there were other companies that were bringing up better products, better storage spaces for longer and larger number of songs. But he decided to move to the iPhone, and everybody was like, okay, this is what we need. And it's been a very stable product so far. And that is to say that the purpose of you putting out whatever it is you're putting out is to understand that you're providing a solution for somebody. You're trying to solve a problem. So consumers know there's a problem. That is what's important. Your job is to find out that, okay, this is the problem and this is how I'm going to solve it. And by so doing, if they like it, they will go for it and they will pay for it. Now, how do you understand them? It is through insights. So what is an insight? An insight is what we know about who is who and what they can pay with. Now, to break this down, basically, an insight is what we know about the target audience and what they can pay with. Remember, I spoke about target audience being the person or individual who a product or service is for, and it is defined by the target segment, that is their location, how much they earn, their behavior online, and their beliefs. So when you understand that part, the second part is what influences these things that qualify them in target segments, what influences where they live, what influences their belief systems, what influences their behavior online and offline. And insight is your understanding of who your product or service is for. It is understanding what they can pay with in exchange for what you're offering, and it's an understanding of what moves them to take action. So generally speaking, insights are of two types: the cultural, which is the emotional and behavior driven type of insight, and the data, which is the rational, factual, and numbers driven type of insights. Okay, could you move the slide, please? So sorry. Next one. The other one. So way down. Next one. Yes. So as I was saying, insights are of two types. So the cultural insights are, take for example, the pop culture thing that's going on now, or the fandom thing that is going on now, fan culture, where we see influencers or celebrities like the BTS, the Korean boy band BTS, being like last year, they did this thing where they made their fans donate $1 million for the United Nations. And this helped us understand that if a brand decides to approach these guys now to maybe sell a product or service, they're willing to influence their fans wherever it is they stay and make them to take action. So that is cultural insights, because these are driven by things people feel and things people act like. Then for the rational and numbers driven insights, these are insights you can get from analytics, from surveys, from research data. Take, for example, your post, you have a business page on Instagram, and you want to understand the type of content your audience likes. So you've been doing maybe 3 types of content. You've been doing game content, you've been asking polls, and you've been making content about the product. So when you go to your Instagram insights, it'll show you numbers and say, okay, these are the top impressions you've been having, these are the top engagements you've been having. So this will let you understand that, okay, this is what people actually like, and this is what you should move by. So these are the two types of insights we have. And then examples of insights are, I'll be sharing two. So first of all is the case study of Food Pro Group by Futuresoft. So Futuresoft did a case study of the cashew nut brand called Food Pro Group, where it was able to break down the brand, the target audience, the work behind the product itself, and how they made it in such a way that it's supposed to stimulate the average consumer to want to buy. So it is worth checking out. I will probably drop the link later on. And then the second one is the yearly digital trend statistics by Data Reporter. So Data Reporter is this digital agency, I think, where they share information about what's been happening online in the past year, and then they give projections on what will happen in the next year. So it's been a hotspot for marketers and people who use digital to help and better understand what people are doing online and how to tailor content and advertising and the brand itself towards those platforms and the types of content they're willing to consume. So finally, insights are what we know about a consumer and what they're willing to pay. And we know obviously that what they're willing to pay for is solutions. So when you understand, like I said earlier, that this is Okoro, for example, and Okoro uses an Android phone and he doesn't do online shopping, but he likes to Google businesses around his area so he can go and do in-store shopping. You as a business would want to do ads because you have a user persona of who Okoro is. You know he likes shoes. So you'd be doing maybe ads, Google search ads on shoes, and then he searches and your business is around this area. He's going to click and he's going to go to your website and then he's going to walk into your store. What you've done is your user persona has attracted someone like your target audience to your website. And from there, you can get analytics on the type of person that wants to make purchases about your business and the type of people that visit your website. So this is just like a very raw example of what insights are about and how you can gather them. I think I'm done so far. Do we have any questions?
Hi, Carlo. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Just want to say that it was a very good um approach, right, to explaining what insights are. Learned a couple of things as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I have a couple of things, but I want to go back to my notes and then also come back to you. But I
Okay.
want to say, like, I really like how you explained the fact that um consumers pay, with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things, even before they finally part with their money. And like we have
Mm-hmm.
to take all of those steps very, very seriously. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of brands sort of like just focus on the touch points where consumers finally say, take my money, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you don't work on the experience that leads them there, where they trust you enough to leave their data, they trust you enough to even give you time. Because I feel like sitting down for 30 minutes to 1 hour to hear somebody talk about product or service or teach stuff, um,
Mm-hmm.
is also like transaction, like you said. So when people trust you to that extent, then you can get to that part where they tell you take their money. So I think it's like
Yeah.
really, really useful stuff. And I never
Yeah.
knew about the China illustration, but yeah. But it was a really good I think something I'll also go back and read through, and sort of get insight into how people also behave before they get to the point where they give off their money. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing
Thank
that.
you. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any other questions? No questions?
Guys, if you have any questions, please raise your hand so that we can then call you guys. So I think, Kalu, what would be great is if you can share the FoodPro case study, the case study link on the chat so that everybody can access it as well.
Okay.
That's really very an interesting case study.
All right, I'll do that.
And yeah, another one, right? So I don't know if so I know that there are all of these tools like analytics and stuff, but most of them
Yes.
sort of help what your customers are doing within an app, on your social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Or is there something, that's really complex enough to help you, sort of track, I don't know if I'm getting it right, but track this journey and, so gather this insight on a very large scale. I know
Mhm.
that then you
Okay.
now need to like very good with, data analysis. So whether it's both offline or online, but if
Mhm.
somebody wants to start or a business wants to start to, pay attention to these details and engage their customers at the level where they're not paying money, but they are willing to give you time or they can, give you data. Yeah. So is there is there something that a small business can do to track all of these things and even put efforts to engage people in those different levels?
Okay. So there's only so much you can do without a lot of work involved. Say, for example, like you said, a small business is trying to gather data. So they need to decide, first of all, is it top bottom or is it bottom up? So top bottom is their assets, what they have in their disposal. Say, for example, they have a budget that can allow them use influencer marketing, or they are willing to try CMRs, that's customer management systems, where they can track of as well as hovers. I think HubSpot does that. So if a customer comes to your website, they'll track where the person clicked, where their mouse hovered over, and the time they spent there. So what you can use that to do is find things that were attractive to people when they used your website, and as a result, see how you can maybe put those things out to be bigger and more what's the word, more engaging. Or you can decide to use Google Analytics. I think Google Analytics also does heat maps, where from the landing page, that is the page where they clicked and got to that part of your website, all the way down till where they stopped and then logged off. So it helps you track how exactly you're going to know where they stopped and where they started. And this is important because I think it was in Neil Patel's SEO class, he made mention of putting all your web pages in such a format where they fit into your consumer cycle at a point in time, whether it's when they just landed at your web page, whether it's when they clicked, where is it sending them to? At each of your web pages should be constructed in such a way that it is leading them across the consumer journey at a particular point in time. So let's say someone comes to your website, like your business now, and they're not looking to buy anything. They're just looking for information about your store location, or your info email. They want to send a dispute email about a product or service they bought. They've logged on, that's one part. They scroll down, that's another part. They see the email and they click it, that's another part. You've tracked that, okay, so people come here and they scroll down because they're looking for your info email. And then you check it with what's been happening offline. How are people disputing your products? Are people asking for refunds? If you compare what the activity that's happening on your website with what's happening in the background, you'd have information about what your consumers like, what they don't, and how they navigate your website. And by so doing, you'd now look for the kind of content you tailor exactly for them, and then take out the other ones and put them behind the scenes. But this is a very dynamic process, because at some point in time, some people need some things, at some point in time, some people need something. So you'd constantly be changing till you can find the right fit.
Oh, okay. Makes a lot of sense. But I mean, like you said, work has to still go into this process. But I like the fact that your last example touched that you have to know that when people land on your page, the first thing they may not be buying, but having like all of this stuff where they can reach you, can help to engage them at the level where they are, which is really fantastic. So I mean, I think so far this has been a very, very good session for me.
Thank you.
I mean, a different, looking at insights from a different perspective and learning new things. So thank you so much, Carlo.
Thank you. Okay, so Dorothy asked a question. She said, very simply put, does this apply to products that are not necessarily in high demand, especially in a recession? Okay, so like I said, you can only do so much when trying to gather insights. People who do surveys and then bring out reports, yearly reports, spend a lot of money asking questions from a lot of people, and you can only ask from a fraction. So whatever it is your reports or your insights are saying, it is only from a fraction of the total number of people that your consumers are. So what is happening is you're saying this fraction that have responded to this are probably the ones who have the time to talk about it. So we guess that it influences their activity, and then you test it out. If you test it out and it works, good and fine, you go ahead with it. As for in a recession, if it applies to products that are necessarily in high demand. So during the recession, not a lot of people are going out. So that means you're going to take everything online. What happens here is most of your tracking rather is going to be done from your online platform. You can't do a lot of tracking from social media sites, except maybe you're running ads. That is when you can track that. But you can't track that if you have a website or a landing page. because you would get full data about who is who did what, where they clicked, where they navigated on your website, and all about that. So for products that are not necessarily in high demand, what you have to do is study the market. It's important to know who exactly needs this. So for you to say your product is not in high demand, I think what it means is, one, you've not found the exact place where your product is needed. Two, you've not found the exact person who needs it. Another example is the story of the guy who caught the blue marlin fish that was valued at $2.6 million, and then he ate it with his friends. Another thing that contributes to you not seeing your product as in high demand and then marketing it to the right people is you don't know about who needs it. So that's where research comes in. You start asking questions, you start checking platforms online, you start seeing similar questions about people saying, okay, oh, we need this, okay, oh, we need that. Then your job is to find ways to mitigate the gap between, or to bridge the gap rather, between where you are and what they need. And when you do that, you've solved the problem, and then they would now want to visit your site if you've effectively done that. And then by so doing, you can track whoever is coming and then look for their location, their persona, and move your products or services there. And where does marketing?
I'd just like to add something to that.
Yeah.
So I think Dorothy has sort of expanded. So she sells candles.
Okay.
And so my advice would be this, right? In a recession, even if you're selling luxury candles, there's still people who are buying luxury candles, right? And especially in this sort of COVID pandemic era, where a lot of people are spending much more time at home, they are actually spending much more on home-related products and in enhancing their space, enhancing their lifestyle, right? So it really depends on how you're actually approaching the consumer and what you're selling to the consumer, right? Are you trying to sell a candle, or are you trying to sell a lifestyle? A candle is a lifestyle product. And if you just say, oh, come and buy this candle, it smells nice, and it has, Japanese cherry blossom scent or whatever, nobody will buy it, right? Because you're not selling me what that candle is going to do for me, right? When Kalu talks about insights and sort of consumer behavior and the psychology behind buying, right? That's where that comes in, right? Where you say, okay, Nkem is super stressed out because she runs a business, she's homeschooling, and she just has a lot going on. This type of candle that we want to sell to her is going to make her relax, right? Is going to take that little bit of stress out, is going to remind her of going to the spa, is going to all activities that she's currently not able to do because of the pandemic, right? So I think it's really, really important to highlight what you're actually selling to me, right? Because when I'm buying a candle, I'm not just buying a candle, right? I'm buying the experience that I get from that candle, right? Whether it is, oh, it's lavender scented, it's going to make me sleep better, or it, has some other scent that is going to relax me, and then give people examples of how they can use it and where they can use it, right? So say, okay, treat yourself to a hot bath with, and put on some candles. These are candles that will make you relax. Get this type of bath salt, right? And partner with other brands, right, that are selling complementary products to your product that will then really drive home that lifestyle message, right? But you can't generalize and say, oh, in a recession, people don't buy, because people will always buy, right? The question is just who is buying in a recession, right? Who has sufficient disposable income in order to buy, and how do you sell to them? How do you appeal to them, right? So when you're then running ads on social media, or you're creating social media content, or you're looking at how your website actually sells, you must speak to that consumer target segment, right? Because when you're selling a luxury good, for example, right, the language is very different to when you're selling a consumer good that's just like, okay, everybody needs it, everybody buys it, right? And when it comes to luxury goods, you sell through the messaging that is focused on lifestyle. You don't sell through, sort of just say, oh, come and buy, right? So I think it's really important to, number one, segment the existing database that you have to start sending out messaging to those people that are on there that have bought before, right? But for that, you need to sort of have that data that Kalu spoke about, which is basically having sales data, having data of how frequently do people actually buy these candles, right? How long do the candles even last, right? Who are the people who are really interested in buying candles, right? Who can benefit from these candles? How do you really create your target segments, right? So you could say, for example, a pregnant woman is a good target segment, right? Or a very stressed executive, or someone who has sleeping issues, right? Those are three different people with three different issues that you're trying to address through these candles, right? And you need to tell stories around that, right? And I think what a lot of brands are doing wrong is the fact that they sort of know some of this stuff, but they're not actually collecting data to back it up and actually be able to prove the things that they sort of know. And then they're also sort of not really focusing on the messaging, right? So a lot of it is just come and buy, come and buy, come and buy. But nobody's going to buy in 2021 and has nothing to do with a recession. It has more to do with how consumers have changed, right? Consumers want to buy into a lifestyle. They want to buy into an experience. They want to buy into more than just a product, right? And this is why Kalu was talking about the Food Pro case study, because it's cashews, but it's more than just cashews, right? When you buy the cashews, you're keeping 400 women employed, right? You are, making sure that we have Nigerian products, right? All of these different things go into the sort of messaging that has to happen when you're actually selling, right? And the insights help you to do this. And like Kalu talked about the customer journey, and I really wish that he actually went a little bit deeper, right? Your customer journey has different parts, right? So there's the part where you attract, there's the part where you engage, there's the part where you convert, there's the part where you retain, and then there's the part where you grow and convert again, right? And that sort of end is like a little bit of a loop. Now, on that journey, customers will have multiple buying objections, right? Oh, I don't have time to look at this right now. So when does that type of person have time, right? Making sure that your ads deliver at the time when the person has time. If you're trying to target stressed out executives, don't target them during the week, because they are not going to have any time to look at any ads during the week or even care remotely of what you're telling them about why they shouldn't be stressed out, right? So this should be something that you then message on a Saturday. But for that, you first of all need to know who are the stressed out executives that you even have within your client base, in your database. How do you get more of these stressed out executives to sign up to your newsletter? How do you get them to visit your website? How do you get them to part with some data that indicates that they're stressed out executives, right? So you need to look at what are the buying objections, what are the right times to sell, what are the right locations where you're going to find these type of people, right? And how can you leverage sort of the network effects of one stressed out executive and the second stressed out executive, right? That talks about your product, in order to attract more people, right? So I think it's something that is, insights really will help you, but you need to really streamline your customer journey and really use the right type of messaging in order to actually be able to sell your product. I hope that was a little bit helpful.
All right. Thank you so much, Nkem. So Dorothy, sorry, just to add, another thing you should try is, like Nkem said, use cases. So stressed out students, stressed out executives, people who just gave birth, people who just came back from a long trip. You can also try gifting. People are looking forward to gifts to their friends and family. So these are also good examples you should try out. Okay, so does anybody have any other questions before we end?
No more questions, Kalu. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean,
all right. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, there was something. Okay. Yeah. So this is not a question. Yeah. Just to expand on something. So you talked about like when you were talking about age, and you said that for example, you won't sell diapers to people who are this age, or sneakers, shoes or stuff. And that's really fantastic example. And just because of the questions that we just had now, so for people to realize that customers who also buy from you are not necessarily the end user. So another reason why you will not sell diapers to somebody who is 70 is because they're probably grandparents already. They don't have kids that are that age. And if they are grandparents, it means that their grandchildren already has, but maybe aunties, right, who may not have kids, may buy diapers for their cousins and nieces, and all of these things. So also sort of like think about when you are thinking about like who you are selling to, don't limit it to who is buying your product, but can also buy your product. So, and I like the fact that you use an example of a gift shop. So people who would patronize a gift shop are not necessarily buying for themselves, but either buying for somebody. So, I just think that that's something that people should also think about. Think about communicating to these people. Think about reaching them with messages that will make them think that this is the perfect gift, that I could get for somebody. Yeah. Overall, this was like really good. Thank you so much, Carlo.
Okay. So Lily's saying create consumer profiles. So Lily, sorry, is this a question or a request?
Oh no, I was just adding on to what to answer the question about, you said something about you said create examples of the kind of customers that you want, and I was just saying create customer profiles. Yeah.
All right. So thank you guys. This has been an amazing and engaging session. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you for everyone for joining Lunch and Learn. Have a lovely rest of the week. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to Kalu on the contact information that he has on this slide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.